Guys, if you want abs, stop training them like a bodybuilder. Here's the truth. Abs that look good are built by training for performance, not aesthetics. Think about it. If you took the average athlete and compared them to the average person doing generic ab routines, who do you think would have a more defined core? The athlete, every single time. And it's not because they're doing more crunches, it's because they're training their core for performance. The byproduct is the aesthetic, not the other way around. Athletes don't do crunches to get shredded, they train their core to resist force, to generate power, and to stay stable under load. And guess what? That's exactly what builds the dense, visible abs you actually want. Most people are doing this backwards. They're chasing the look without understanding the function, and that's why their abs stay flat and weak. By the end of this video, you'll learn why traditional ab training fails, the 6 core functions athletes actually train, and how to structure your training for real results. No fluff, just what works. Okay, let's start with why sit-ups are quite useless for building real abs. In a sit-up, your knees are bent and your feet are on the floor. That position already rounds your lower back and tucks your pelvis under. So your abs basically start the movement already in a shortened position. And because of that, they don't have to work very hard. They're not really resisting much. They're just going through the motion, and there's very little real tension. And without tension, there's no reason for your abs to grow. Now, compare that to a hollow body hold or a plank. In those positions, gravity is constantly trying to arch your lower back. If you relax for even a second, you lose the shape. Your abs have to stay switched on the entire time just to hold that position. And that constant fight is what actually builds abs. So if you were to take one bit of advice from this video, it's that visible abs aren't built by mindlessly moving your spine over and over again. They're built by learning to resist the movement first, and only after that adding controlled motion to build size. Emphasis on controlled. All right, let me show you how this is done. So your core has 6 jobs, and if you want your abs to perform and look elite, you need to be training all 6. Let me break them down. The first is anti-extension. This is your ability to stop your lower back from arching. Think about a plank. The moment you relax, your hips drop and your lower back starts to arch. Gravity is constantly pulling you into that position, and your abs have to actively fight it the entire time. That constant resistance is what actually builds strength. And there's one exercise that takes this idea to the extreme, the dragon flag, one of my favorite exercises. In a dragon flag, your shoulders are anchored, your entire body stays straight, and gravity is aggressively trying to pull your hips and lower back into an arch position. There's no bent knees here, no shortened levers, and nowhere to hide. To stop the arch from happening, your abs have to stay fully engaged from your ribs all the way down to your pelvis. If you lose tension even for a moment, your lower back will take over and the position will collapse. And that is what makes the dragon flag so effective. Equally, the long lever, so with your legs being so far from your torso, the force is huge that is trying to extend your spine. That forces your abs, especially the lower portion, to work at a very, very high intensity just to hold the position. This is why dragon flags build dense, powerful abs. They are not a beginner movement, but if your goal is real ab strength and visible development, this is as pure as anti-extension training gets. So let's talk about the second function, anti-rotation. Your obliques aren't built just by twisting, they're also built by preventing twisting under load. Imagine hanging from one arm on a bar. If you're passive, your torso will rotate, but if you engage your obliques and try to prevent the twisting, your body will stay square. And that tension is what builds thick, blocky obliques. A great example is the pull-off press. When you press the arms away from your body, the weight is desperately trying to twist your torso. As the arms extend, that rotational force increases, and your obliques have to work very, very hard to keep your ribs and hips facing forwards. If you relax even slightly, your torso will rotate towards the cable or the band. The only way to stay square is by actively engaging the obliques the entire time. You can train anti-rotation even with just about any single arm movement done with control. The third function is anti-lateral flexion. This is resisting side bending. Your core's job here is to stop your spine from collapsing sideways under asymmetrical load. It creates extremely high oblique tension with minimal movement. One of the most efficient ways to load your waist. Examples here are side plank progressions and Copenhagen holds. In most positions, my hips want to drop to the floor, but the resistance against this is where the strength is built. This really sharpens your waistline without unnecessary motion. Okay, the fourth function is rotational strength. Once you can resist rotation, you can then safely express rotation. Rotational strength is about moving through rotation whilst maintaining control of your pelvis and rib cage. The obliques here work together in what we call a sling system across your trunk. Examples here are kettlebell chops and banded rotations. Okay, the fifth function is bracing. Bracing isn't just for heavy lifts. It's the baseline state that your core should return to in all exercises. We should be working the core in every bit of training we do, and that's what keeps movement efficiency and quality very high. A soft posterior pelvic tilt stacks your ribs over your pelvis, puts your abs under tension, and prevents excessive lumbar extension. This is how your abs stay engaged without being clenched. To practice this, you can stand with your back against the wall, tilt your pelvis backwards until your lower back is flat against the wall. You want to breathe deeply through your nose whilst trying to maintain that tension. This trains your abs to stay on, improving your resting abdominal tone and preventing rib flare that hides ab definition. Okay, the sixth function is lateral flexion. This is where direct oblique hypertrophy lives. Unlike anti-lateral flexion, the goal here is controlled shortening and lengthening of one side of your trunk. This should be layered after good control is established. We can do things like hanging side knee raises, oblique crunches, and kettlebell side bends. This directly builds oblique size and enhances visible side ab thickness. Now that you know the 6 functions, here's how you should train them. You want to start with all the anti-movements because your first priority is building the stability, the anti-extension, the anti-rotation, anti-lateral flexion, and also the bracing. These teach your core to resist before you ask it to produce force. Then you want to layer in the movements. Once you've built that stable foundation, things like the rotational strength and the lateral flexion. Here's how I usually structure this for the average client. First, learning to brace and breathe for 2 to 3 weeks. And then stage 2 will be cycling through anti-extension, anti-rotation, and anti-lateral flexion on alternate days for around 4 weeks. And then we're going to layer in rotational and lateral strength work, increasing resistance over time. After this, we can far more easily access specific core goals like toes to bar, dragon flags, L-sits, you name it. But even better, we'll be more supple, controlled, and efficient with our movement in sport and in day-to-day life. Now, I'm sure you guys already know this, but I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't mention it. You can't see abs if they're covered in fat. All the training in the world won't matter if your fat isn't low enough. You don't need to starve yourself. You don't need to do anything extreme, but if your body fat is over 20%, you might want to consider a slight caloric deficit consistently over a period of time if the aesthetic side of things is important to you. And that's all I need to say about that. So there it is, the real way to build abs that look elite and actually perform. Perhaps stop training for the mirror, start training like an athlete, resist first, move second, stay consistent. And if this helps, drop a like and a subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.